So I'm seeing what people are seeing.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the podcast. I'm Adam Steele from Hot Pole Studios. And joining me this evening is a crazy bald German. This is Henning Pauly, everybody. Say hello.
Hello? I don't know why I'm here. I read something about topics, and I don't know about any of that stuff.
Well, that's good. We'll guide you through.
I was asked to tell a joke in the chat.
Please do.
Okay. I'm bad at jokes. So Michiel told me this joke. Leslie didn't think it was funny, but she doesn't have a sense of humor. So
Oh God,
what's
Michiel.
the difference between people from Dubai and people from Abu Dhabi?
Go on.
I have to read this. People from Dubai don't like the Flintstones, and people from Abu Dhabi do.
Oh dear. Ladies and gentlemen, Henning Pauly.
No, that's Michiel. That's the crazy Belgian guy.
Yes, everybody's least favorite Belgian, Michiel.
He loves Legos.
Oh, good stuff. That's one of them.
He said this isn't Legos because apparently each Lego thing has a Lego logo on it.
A Lego logo.
And since the Lego logo is missing, this isn't Lego.
No, it's not Danish. It's is it from Mr. Gugu?
Obviously.
Of course it is. It's one of their more family-friendly tops, shall we say.
I got a whole bunch of new ones in there. Beautiful.
Good stuff. I can't wait to see him.
One sparked the title of an upcoming video, Is a Plexi Really Above the Ducks?
Above the ducks.
It's referring to frequency. And if you want to know what's going on, watch that video.
Okay.
That's the thumbnail says, Is a Plexi Really Above the Ducks?
Lovely. So coming up tonight, we have news and a crazy German. Let's roll the intro.
I mean, I got Wirecast. I could probably do that.
Yes.
How you getting the chat in there?
Oh, it's magic. I use Restream.io. We're currently live on Facebook and Twitch and Facebook and Twitter.
Pornhub?
I'm sure I could work that out.
Next time, then.
Yes, that could be a real revenue generator. Yes, so there's been a lot happen this week. Nothing political at all. No. Although if you...
Let's not go there or we all have to cry.
Yes, exactly. Although, funnily enough, if you hear any loud pops, that's because for any non-English people, it's Guy Fawkes Night, National kind of Fireworks Night. It's where we celebrate where people overthrew the government, or at least tried to and failed. Yeah, not even kidding. It's quite appropriate, really.
Yep.
So, yes, people celebrate every year with explosions.
Makes sense. I get very angry when people do that because Bruno, the beagle, gets extremely scared and starts slobbering, and he's super panicked when people do fireworks. So I get very pissy when people do that.
Oh, bless him. Yeah, it's not the best night for pets, that's for sure. And yeah, I have a 2-year-old daughter who's probably completely oblivious and sleeping through it, but she may be woken up by it, and that'll be a pain. She woke me up at 6 a.m. Oy.
How do people do fireworks when they're in their houses because of the lockdown?
They have gardens?
That's still being outside.
Yeah, people don't listen very much in the UK, generally.
They should go inside and watch podcasts.
Yes. With some...
About... What's this about? What is this podcast
So it's a weekly podcast where we go through the guitar news and the music tech news, and then we talk to our guest and get questions from the chat and generally talk
Who's
rubbish.
The guest today? Who's the guest?
Guest last week was Jackson Brooksby from Dipswitch Demos.
No, who's the guest this week?
I've not met him yet. This to be confirmed.
Okay.
But you're here for now.
Okay.
Unrelated, last week's news topic was that Shure had released a new microphone, the MV7, and lo and behold, what is this? That's an MV7, and it sounds rather nice.
Dude, it's not plugged in. I could clearly see that it's not plugged in. You're like, oh, look how great it sounds, when in reality, you're actually using a totally different mic. Yeah, I can see it's not plugged in. I'm not stupid.
I'm not using the XLR, that's why. Haha!
What are you using?
I'm using the USB because it's got an inbuilt compressor and limiter if you use the USB. So yeah.
I'm using my screen.
Screens don't usually make very good microphones.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you very clearly. So you have a very strange screen.
It has a camera in it, and it has a microphone. It's also not a cheap screen, so...
Well, that would explain it. Generally, not a cheap X is where, extra features.
Wait. Not necessarily, because look what arrived today.
Oh.
And,
I can't make out the brand on that.
It's a Harley Benton.
Okay. Looks nice.
But, it's one in quite a while now that I got, and I was like, hey, that's actually good. I just like literally 10 minutes ago finished the track I recorded with it and the dirt ass cheap amp that they sent me. And it was actually fun. I got mature real sounds out of that stuff.
Good stuff. Well, that's what we want. I'm considering getting a Harley Benton or two for the studio just for when lockdown finishes and we get the local knuckleheads coming in to record. Hey, your guitar is set up like trash. Here, have this nice expensive one. It costs 3 times what yours did. What is it? It's a Harley Benton. Shut up.
Yeah, this came and it looks cool, and action was a bit high, just at the neck, and I was just blazing on it, and
nice.
They have this 15-watt amp for
$220.
All tube, and I just recorded a full song. It worked. It played nice. It sounded good. They've had some issues with pickups.
Right.
In some models where I was like, that's not voiced right, and that's too thin. But this is kick-ass, and that's €194.
That's a good price point for that.
And I mean, I don't know if you can see this with my crappy screen camera. Well, this is sandblasted.
Yes, yeah. I was wondering how they'd done that.
It's a bit of a shame because usually with the sandblasting, you've got like kind of a relief. You can really feel the grooves.
Yeah.
And they did that. They sandblasted and stained it, but then they sanded it again. So it's a bit too nice. But it's got 2 filtertrons, and I don't know if you can see this, but look at the fretboard.
Oh.
It's actually nice and dark. So look at the neck. And then the fretboard's got some, I don't know if that's, it feels like it's bamboo.
Weird.
But at $194, this is a very recommendable guitar.
Well, maybe that's how they're making them, is that because it's bamboo, they can grow them really quick.
I really wonder what that is, because I don't know, can you see this? It's got,
yeah, you can see
it's got like a grain on it.
Yeah, it's kind of like a horizontal grain.
Yeah. I didn't give the last 2 sets of guitars I got from them like the most stellar review because, again, sound a little bit thin and playability. This is good. Okay, moving on.
Yes, moving on. Yes, my one and only nice guitar that I have here cost about 50 times as much. But at the studio, I do have the nice Vola Oz. That's a beautiful guitar. The crazy rainbow-colored one.
Oh, you've got the one with the roasted maple neck?
Yes. Yeah, that plays like a winner.
What's great about them and what's a little bit of a problem about them is they're ultra bright.
I love that.
It's got ridiculous brightness, which is for clean parts. It's insanely nice. It's probably one of the sparkliest guitars out there.
Right.
And but you have to be careful with like overdrive and drive because it's so bright that it can jump out and be a little bit harsh. So you have to tame the highs on your drives of the amp.
Right.
But It's a beautiful guitar. Playability, craftsmanship. I had a normal Oz in like a cream.
Yeah.
And I just sold that because, there's no point in having two of them.
Yeah.
But that Oz ROA, if you don't need the Fender look, this will kill any Fender under $2,000.
Yeah, they really are that good. I mean, the other, like you say, bright. I like bright. Not sure about the single coils being so bright, but the humbucker. For me, I use kind of dark, thick tones anyway. Like I've got a Mesa Road King, and that's a thick, chewy kind of tone right there.
Yeah.
But
that's a good combo.
Yeah.
The in-between positions, they're so chimey. It's an amazing guitar. Put some delay on there, put some reverb on there, a little bit of shimmer, and it sits perfectly in the mix. Beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, that's a winner of a guitar right there. But we're getting way off track. Let's talk about the news. The news. So there's
you mean things that are happening outside of my house?
Yes, and things that are happening generally outside of the US as well, thankfully. So
I know nothing about what's happening not inside this room.
You're probably doing okay then. Because, someone pressed the... I had a little panic yesterday because something to do with the American thing that's happening is there was a news headline. It said results were unclear. And I had a little dyslexic moment. I read it as nuclear and thought, oh, God, 3 minutes to live. Goodbye.
Oh. I did a review of a Bose thing.
Yes.
And I took that to test it over to my brother's house where he had a party with like 20, 30 people.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hey, techno party. Let's put it in the party and, film it there and actually show it in a realistic setting.
Yeah.
And I was really proud of myself because I'm probably the only one who has realistic, real life, that thing at a party, which is what it's made for. They had a DJ and everything.
Yeah.
And shortly before I released that video, I told them about it and they completely freaked because, oh my God, you can't do that because we commissioned this video and don't you know there's like, heavy lockdown coming up and the numbers are going up. And I'm like, what? First of all, it's a little party, but apparently I literally completely missed the fact that in Germany and everywhere the numbers are going up like crazy.
Yeah.
And that I wasn't sensitive to the fact that it's going bad again and that what I was doing, showing that thing at a party, looked like Bose would be endorsing that kind of behavior.
Ah, yes.
So my point being, I had to take that out on their ask, because I literally had no idea what was going on outside of this room. I had no idea what's going on in the world. Apparently, there was a fire somewhere.
Yes, so that's the number one news article. AKM in Japan, their factory caught fire for 3 whole days. And you'd think, who are AKM? Why should I care? They make analog to digital converters and digital to analog converters.
I tell you why you should care. AKM. Everyone cares much.
Yeah. And that just about translates.
That's how you spell that. AKM. Okay. Everyone cares much.
I believe you. Certainly doesn't stand for Asahi Kasei Microsystem.
Nope. What I said is true.
Yes. But apparently, the whole factory caught fire. And this is a knock-on effect for people like us because a lot of converters in a lot of the high-end audio interfaces and general preamps and all that kind of thing are all AKM chips. And that's going to be a big problem because that means now there aren't going to be any new ones for many months. And that means that there's a very good chance if you were about to buy a new high-end interface of some kind, you might want to do some investigating and maybe buy one now before stocks go because they're not going to come back anytime soon.
Is this really the only factory doing that?
Yep, AKM have one factory in Japan, and it's going to take them months to get back to normal. There has been some news that AKM may be able to commission essentially some of their competition to build some of their chips. But even doing that, because of the tooling cost and the time it's going to take, means it's going to be months until the supply chain is back to
They're the only company that the high-tech, I mean, we're probably talking about Universal Audio, Antelope Audio, stuff like that.
Exactly, yeah. There are other companies. There are a couple of companies. I'm trying to think now. There's Texas Instruments, and who's the other one? OPA, I think it is. No, I think that's the Texas Instruments chips. But the thing about converters that I learned over the years is that it's one of the things that someone like an interface designer will design the entire circuit around it. You can't just pull one out, pop another one in. The circuit is designed around it, the way the traces are laid out, that kind of thing. So if you want to completely replace it with a different manufacturer's thing, you have to make a new version.
I'm having a chat with a guy from Antelope Audio tomorrow because they sent me their interface, their tabletop interface.
Oh, the Zentor?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good interface.
And well, I can't make a sound so far, so I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm getting levels everywhere. I'm getting levels into it. I'm playing guitar, but I can't get any level to the master.
Oh.
Which is, I think, necessary for you to hear something.
Yeah.
So it looks really fully featured. Looking at all the Antelope stuff, it looks kind of like the UA stuff, just bang for the buck. You always get more ins and outs.
Yes.
For the same money. On the other hand, you don't get the UA plugins.
Yeah, which for me is no loss. I don't enter into that ecosystem. I flatly refuse.
The thing is, there's nothing rivaling them. Zero. Nothing on the market that gets close.
I think a lot of the native stuff's getting there now. No, I stand by that. My issue is the fact that if I want to get up and move with a laptop, I can get up and move if I don't have to carry like a satellite with me. You
absolutely can, but I've tried. I've had the whole Waves was going to give me their mega bundle,
right?
And I said, "What's the point?" Because it's not as good. I used the API 560 graphic EQ for a lot, and I compared it A/B with the Waves. There are worlds between them. So, like it's not subtle. It's the Wave sounds digital. It sounds colder and harsher, and it's modeling the same hardware.
Right.
You would think that it's close. There are great native plugins. I love the stuff from Plugin Alliance. I use some of that stuff.
Yes.
But they're so good, they're doing third-party stuff for the UA system.
Ah, wow.
So a lot of the stuff on the UA system is actually from Plugin Alliance, which means you could get it from Plugin Alliance and then run it native, which is kind of what I do because that frees up processing power. But that they simply have some things that are as good as they get. But as you said, entering into the ecosystem, it's not easy. A friend of mine who is recording the singer that is on my tracks, Hannah, her boyfriend said, well, we want to upgrade to something. What should we get? Should we get a UA, twin or something?
Yeah.
And I said, it's a kick-ass interface. There's no question about it. But getting it doesn't mean you're done with the investment.
Yeah.
Because then you would want to get even just a few plugins. And you're out thousands if you go down that rabbit hole. The thing is, for me, so I fully understand if someone says, I don't want to start with that because then there's $200 here, $350 here. If you're lucky, maybe they have a sale and then it's $150 for one plugin.
Yeah.
However, I've been with the system since 2001.
Wow.
Since the UAD1 card. I had 3 of those in my PC. So I've been gradually buying things. And I had UAD2 cards in my computer and my PC. Then I switched to the Mac and I got a satellite. So for me, it was always, okay, now I buy the audio interface, but I take my plugins with me. And then with the new audio interface, you had another deal and you got a couple of plugins for cheaper. So it's it wasn't this major investment. However, if I did start a studio today for money, and I made money. Getting like the Give Me All bundle, like getting an Octo in all the plugins makes absolute sense.
Maybe. I mean, it's been so long since I said I'm never going to do it that maybe it's time I had another look. But I used the UAD1 stuff when I was a young university student, and I would, even with 2 cards in a machine, max it out before I'd finished a mix. And that was when it was already, all the plugins were already on there because it was a university system. It was money, no object. I still ran into limitations, and I was like, I don't want to live this way.
Yes. That being said, the first Frameshift album, we mixed with 1 card.
Wow.
So Pultec on the bass drum, put it on there, render it down. I mean, that was a lot of work, okay, back then. And it wasn't nearly as good as the stuff now. They now have the legacy versions of the LA2A, L1176 in Pultec, and then there's now the new version, and they're much better. To have a system where you don't have a limitation, takes a bit. I get that. I have an Apollo 8 with 2 processors. I have an X4 on the table, so I don't have to crawl behind something, and that's got 4. And then I've got a satellite 4 and a satellite 8. So I got 18 processors.
Yeah, so you've got a lot going there.
And I literally can't. I mean, I could max it out, but even a big session, I use whatever I want and I'm fine. But even if you look at that system, is Warren here?
Warren is in the chat. Hi, Warren.
Hi, Warren. But even with that system, if you look at what that would cost you, I mean, technically, get like an X4 and get 2 Octos. You're at $4,000 roughly for the hardware.
Yep, and probably what, $3,000 for the $4,000 for the plugins, roughly.
Well, if you buy an Octo with a full, let's say you're at $8,000 or $9,000. I get that, but then you have 20 processors. You're set. And what did we spend on a Pro Tools setup without any plugins or whatever a couple of years ago? Without even AD, none of it.
Yeah,
it was just the cards. For a professional work environment, that's absolutely justifiable,
I suppose.
And
I went the third route though. I went the most powerful PC money can buy all native plugins, and honestly, for the last 15 years, that's worked for me. And so that kind of stuck.
It totally can, and you can find killer plugins. For me, I like to not play with lots of plugins.
It's one of my favorite things. So
yeah, and then you become one of those Warren nerds who talk about, you know, that plugin and that plugin and the mixing, blah, 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 blah. No, I like to stick with what I know and get the job done and make music.
Right.
One thing that kind of got me away from all that was looking at what Chris Lord Alge is doing.
Yes, it's in a room with $500,000 worth of gear.
But he doesn't have anything in terms of gear past 1991, I think.
Yeah.
So he says, well, I use 1176s, I use LA2As, and I use all that stuff because, you know what, it works. The reason why he's got so many of them, because he uses them as presets. Did you know that?
Yes, I heard. He's a crazy, crazy man.
He just doesn't touch them. He just goes and says, okay, I want that setting. Then he just patches into the one that is set up that way.
Yeah, but then if he's got that much money and the business model of it, the work coming in that quickly, any time saved for him makes a lot of sense.
Absolutely. So, but for me, the point is, I don't want to go and try the next new plugin. I don't want to go and try the next new compressor. What do I know what it sounds like? And then I spend a day mixing something with it. In the end, has it made my mix better? Probably not.
Yeah, no, there is something to be said for that, sure. But I'm a bit of a tone seeker. I kind of enjoy the thrill of the chase.
I've done that like a long time and tried to chase that CLA snare sound and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I have the tools now and I know how to get there. Interestingly, that CLA snare sound is in an included plugin from Native Instruments.
I'm not surprised.
Supercharger is their compressor, and all you do is you load it up and you go to snare, and then you're done. Yep. That's the trick.
That sounds like Chris Lord Alge. He literally does that on his desk. He goes, "Well, this chain is the snare chain. Crunch."
Yeah. But yeah, I stick with the classics, and when it comes to those, like if you want surgical precision stuff, UA isn't the place to go,
right?
Because they do these emulations of all the old stuff. But when it comes to give me an LA2A 1176 and a pool tech and a kick-ass reverb and all that, that's the place to be.
Yeah, I mean that. I'll think, because like I said, a lot of my time I spend with the laptop away from anything. And I'll have to work in the field because I do a lot of work with sound and a lot of editing for film, and I need to be able to do things on the go, and I can't be lugging things like satellites around with me.
Then you have two setups.
I have two setups. I have a studio setup and I have this.
Well, yeah, that's the point.
I didn't have to pay for two sets of outboard.
But if you're doing something in the field for film and stuff, personally, I wouldn't even use an LA2. Then I would use something like get the Isotope stuff, Neutron 3, kick-ass. It probably has everything you need. You have RX8, which is obviously everything you need to get wind out of stuff and so on.
Yes.
But for for music in a studio production, when you're at home, then the UA stuff is good. And the thing is about the investment, which obviously doesn't work for the people listening. So let's just pretend they're not listening between us. With the amazing advertising power that you hold, you don't necessarily have to make that investment.
Sure. Even aside from that, that's the thing, is I've been such a long-standing kind of pillar in the community of the native processing now that it would feel a bit weird for me, even if I was just given stuff, to just completely hop camps. Like, I'm generally not an Apple desktop user either, for a similar reason. Not because it's bad, but because for so long now I have championed a different thing that for me to then just turncoat would not be a good image. And
well, I've been the same way. I've always like PC, and then, well, once you use a Mac and it works, and you actually work instead of dealing with drivers, and you work instead of dealing with blue screens, and you work instead of dealing with RAM that doesn't work anymore and stuff. Working is fun when stuff actually works. And since I switched to Macs, which have cost me more than thousands, I've never had a problem with one. Like, literally, I now have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is my 7th Mac. Never had a single issue.
In 3 months.
It's my 7th Mac in 3 months. No, probably like 8 or 9 years now. And again, no issues. And I remember the days, oh my God, you wouldn't want to meet me in those days when my PC wasn't working, because the whole studio was down.
Wow.
I couldn't make money. I couldn't do anything. And the thing is, your PC doesn't work. What is the problem? Is it RAM? Is it the main board? Is it the power supply? Is it the video card? Is it the processor? How do you know? How do you figure it out?
Right.
And then you become a computer expert. You have to become a computer expert because you have to take care of the thing that makes your studio run. You're so dependent on that piece of gear.
Yep.
Because without it, nothing works.
But so that makes sense. I am a computer nerd, though, and I was a computer nerd first. So for me, I kind of live and breathe that whole thing. So yeah, for me, that I actually find joy in that. And I have to say, I've never had the studio down for more than about 10 minutes. because of problems like that. And that's why I've always had two systems as well. If for some reason something goes down, my system's set so that every time I hit stop on a record, it's already being backed up. And so if the computer just sets fire, which has never happened, but who knows, I get my laptop out my bag, put it down, plug it into the interface, turn it on, it downloads the project files, and we go within 5 minutes.
That's obviously a very nice setup.
But that took years of tweaking and tweaking because I'm paranoid.
I have a very powerful laptop, and I could continue working. But the thing is, for me, that peace of mind, if you have Apple Care, I can drive for 45 minutes, smack it on the desk, and say, "Do something."
Yeah.
And someone will do something, and if not, it's in the contract. They will give you something you can work with, which in the case of my computer, they don't even have there.
Yeah, well, that's another part of it. Like, I've always had friends with very powerful Macs over the years, and my experience of them, secondhand experience, is that whenever they have a problem, they take it to the Genius Bar. The Genius Bar, they take out the motherboard, put a new one in, and format all the hard drives. And then go, there you go. And it's like, well, it's working now. Yeah, but all my data's gone, all my software's gone. I'll have to spend an entire day reinstalling it all. But it works.
Well, technically no, because the Time Machine backup works pretty damn well.
That's fair, but it used to be before, yeah.
Yeah, what I have done all these years, except for the new one, since 2011, I didn't installed everything, and when I got a new Mac, really just said Time Machine backup, and 45 minutes later I'm coming into the studio and everything's there. My new Mac is literally a mirror of my old one.
Yeah.
This time around I didn't want to do it because obviously through 10 years you're dragging stuff around in little editors and the Boss Waza editor and stuff like that you didn't want anymore. So this time around it took me a couple of weeks to get everything happening, but I think that might be why they're doing that, because they hopefully ask you if you have a Time Machine backup.
Yeah, but I don't know. At that point, that's beyond my experience with it. But yes, we've spent 20 minutes on one news article. We should probably move on to the next one.
Let's move on.
Hello to Lee Fuge in chat. You're right, dude. We did say hello to
Lee who? Lee what?
The vegan.
Is he Danish?
He's the one with all the hair.
Oh, that guy.
Yes, like you in that picture that someone sent me for the thumbnail.
Yeah, who did? That's what I want to know.
Somebody sent me that picture. It was wonderful. Thank you, everybody. I actually put a message out in my Discord. Join the Discord, by the way, which was, what's the worst picture of Henning that you can find? And that treasure came up.
It actually isn't the worst.
Oh, I'm sure it isn't.
The one with the mohawk and the punk outfit.
Oh, someone sent me that as well, but I preferred the long-haired one. I actually like the one that's on the wall in the other room that's you've got like 10 posters of.
Ah, yeah, that one.
Yeah.
The creepy one.
I like that. I don't find it creepy. I just think it's just you looking upwards at us.
Michiel says he has a better one. Michiel, if you're thinking about the one of the chair, you're keeping that to yourself.
Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. And one more question in the chat. Have you ever tried a Linux setup like Ubuntu Studio? I have. None of the plugins that I have work with it. I'm not going to run Wine just to run plugins. iLock doesn't work with it, so no. That's the end of that. Oh, and we've now got a super fun, awesome, happy time pedal show. Everybody's joining in. Hello, everybody. It's a real party in the chat today. This is great. So talking of Apple, this is the next hammer to drop, is that your Mac Pro is probably the last Mac Pro that's even going to run on that type of processor. Because Apple's November 10th press event is probably going to drop the new ARM-based Macs.
Instead of legs? What's an ARM-based Mac?
Okay, so every desktop computer right now runs on a platform called x86, and they have done for about 30 years. Maybe longer. So generally speaking, you can kind of run stuff on the same desktop. You know, like you said with the Time Machine, you could probably get a 5-year-old backup and put it on a new machine. It's just going to work. because even though it's a different machine, it's built from the same type of hardware, right? Yeah, that all goes out the window in 5 days. So Apple are going to be making all of their computers with ARM processors, which ARM is the processor type that has been in every iPhone and iPad and basically every mobile device for the past 10 years. And is completely like what Greek is to Chinese. They are completely different. So this is the biggest overhaul since Apple left the PowerPC platform in about 2003, I think it was.
So what I'm hearing in what you're saying is then I can go to my Mac and swipe on the side of it, and that I can do like...
if they put a screen on the side of it, I mean, that would be cool. But the idea is that it's a whole new thing. It's going to be lower power, which means it can be more powerful. And basically, they don't want to pay Intel any more money. Although, funnily enough, they worked out a deal with the ARM company, and now NVIDIA owns ARM. Great.
But will only the OS have to work with it, and then all the software communicates with the OS? Or will actually all software have to be able to work with that processor?
So apparently it's a bit of A, bit of B. They've made translators that can translate the software over, but it's going to run very slowly. And in some cases, it may not run at all. So, yeah, it's going to be rocky for the first year or two while all the companies that have been programming for macOS suddenly get this landing on their desk and go, poof, program for this now. Ah, right. And some of the companies will do really well, I think, and some of the companies will not, especially the smaller ones. Like, I have no doubt that Avid and Waves are going to get hold of this really quickly and just be like, yeah, fine, done. And of course, Logic will be fine because that's an Apple, that's under the Apple umbrella. They've probably had this for a year or more. So that there's going to be an ARM version comes out of those fairly soon. But some of the smaller plugins or relatively small companies, like we're talking about Universal Audio, yes, they're big to us, but to Apple, they're like probably nobody. So they might not have even had a developer unit for this until very recently. So they might be struggling and scrambling to rewrite all their software.
I saw Guillaume from Blue Cat Audio got one maybe 6 weeks ago.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so six weeks ago. So that's all the time he's had. And these are being announced next week. I talked to Shane from Kazrog a few weeks before that because I was joking with him saying, can you program some of your stuff for iPad? And he's like, that's really stupid. And I said, look, these are the same processors that are going to be in Macs next year. Start coding for this now. and yeah, that seems to have paid off well because he did.
But since a lot of the processors, I mean, since there's millions of computers out there running the Intels, the iOS will have to be able to deal with both, right?
That's the idea, but I mean, have to? It's Apple. They don't have to do anything. This is where it gets sticky because I think Apple will, to a large part, go, well, we're Apple. You use the programs that are out there, tough. And if it doesn't work with the translator programs, well, just wait for the company to make the new version of the software.
I mean, there's no way that any of us in the music business, which of course comes, second, should go for something like that immediately.
Yeah, but some people will. Those people will pay the price, of course. But everybody else, what that could mean is that everybody's now going to just be sat on, if you can even buy one, this generation's hardware for the next couple of years while the dust settles. So that's the problem, is that the Mac Pros. The other question is, once the new hardware comes out, what incentive do the software makers have to keep supporting the old one if you can't even buy it anymore? They're going to drop it like a hot rock. They're going to move
the old The old what?
The old architecture. So that thing that's on your right, that box right there, as of next week, that is out of date, my friend. That's obsolete. So the question is,
I'm gonna have to come over there and hit you.
Lufthansa have got tickets. I'm sure you can find some there.
Mm-hmm. I just spent $16,000 on that.
I'm sorry to break it to you, my friend, but from a technical standpoint, as of next week, it's going to be not the thing that is their baby. I mean, sure, a lot of the software companies are probably going to support this for years and years, but that's going to be on them. That's going to be their decision. And if they're a small company and they've only got so many developers, and these new platforms are coming out, they're probably going to say to their developers, look, I need you to spend a lot more time on the new thing than the old thing. So that's going to be a difficult time.
Yeah, however, I see so many people that, again, had 10-year-old Macs. And I think in our world, it goes very slowly. The development is very slow.
It can do.
And support for maybe in the video world, it might be faster.
Yeah.
Which is primarily my world now. But in studios, most studios were still working with 10-year-old Macs, upgraded them, and Pro Tools and all that stuff was still running. So I can't see companies abandoning something from this year that quickly.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, though. Even if they don't abandon it, because it's like, it's a different issue to me. That the thing is, the 10-year-old Macs are on the same architecture as the ones you can buy today. Mm-hmm. So they are still developing for those things because there's no reason not to. When they develop software for those 10-year-old Macs, they're also developing the software for one-day-old Macs. So to a company, that makes a lot of sense. When there's a big seismic shift like this, that very quickly for me changes the incentive. Do you remember the old PowerPC Macs, which were a different architecture?
I heard of them. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's when the big Mac Silver Towers first came out, they were still on the very old non-Intel platform. And I remember clearly my best friend at the time had got an absolute monster of a G5 Mac. It had 2 processors in, which at the time was crazy talk. We're talking £10,000 or whatever it was for that. And within the year, nobody was making software for it because there was no incentive for it. Because, well, everybody's on the new platform now, or going to be on the new platform now. There's never going to be another one of these. So, like, here's the final version of our software that works. See you later. I was like, well, right. It's like there are studios that still run Pro Tools 10, for example. That's a good analogy, I think. But that's the last 32-bit Pro Tools. And for a long time, companies have made Pro Tools plugins that work with it. In the last couple of years, I've seen companies actively just stop development on it and say, well, it's time for you to upgrade. I can't afford to pay my developers anymore to support you when you're not going to buy any new hardware and you're a diminishing market. So yeah, it sours very quickly. Just because it's such a seismic shift.
It'll be interesting to see how Apple deals with it, because it would be, tragic if they went and said, okay, here's a new Mac Pro that we're releasing for ridiculous amounts of money, which is out for 1 year, have people spend ridiculous amounts of money on it, and then a year later say, yeah, we don't care anymore, we're doing this new thing. Boo-hoo. Because they knew a year ago what they were going to do.
Yeah, but then this is the problem to me with the new Apple is you say, I spent 16 grand on this, and they go, oh, well, that's just 10 people in China buying an iPhone 12. I don't care. And that's the thing. Their market segment used to be 90% desktops when they made the last big change. Now it's 1%. So it's going to be interesting to see how it goes. But yeah, talking about that, the next news article is about the ARM MacBook Air, which is probably going to debut. And looks very pretty, I have to say. And it's going to be running about 15 watts for the entire thing, so it's going to have an all-day battery life. And
they always claim that.
Yeah, but ARM processors are genuinely so low power usage that I can see the justification now. Like, if you've ever used an iPad Pro and it's lasted all day, this is pretty much that, but with macOS instead of iOS. That's where it gets interesting, because the proof now is like how powerful iPads actually are, even though we're not using them to the full extent most of the time, because the interface doesn't really do that very well. The whole like multitasking thing. But I've got Cubasis Noria Pro on my iPad Pro, which is the old iPad Pro. And at 96K, I can run a full mix on an iPad and it doesn't care. It just carries on.
I've got the old one. I've got I have the first iPad Pro and now the one from, I don't know, 2 years ago. It's my main thing for most of the things I do, except whatever I do on the desktop, like video editing, whatever. I don't run Cubasis on that. I don't really have an interface that goes with it. But if I went out doing like mobile recording or something, I would definitely try to do it on the iPad. It's easier to handle than a laptop, and the battery life is much better.
Exactly, but that's what I'm saying. That's based on the ARM architecture, and so are these new MacBooks. That it's essentially a very fancy iPad Pro that's been split into a screen and a keyboard and a trackpad,
and it probably still doesn't have a touchscreen, which I don't understand why Apple doesn't do that.
Yep. Well, that's Apple for you.
Hey, we invented this iPad thing, which is killer, and we made people touch stuff, but you can't actually have that in our computers, even though in the PC world, every PC now has a touchscreen.
Yep. And they all suck. But hey.
Well, maybe that's the thing, because on the iPad, I mean, the on the tablets, they work. So maybe they would want to do a touchscreen that actually works, which probably would kill the price.
Yep. So I think that's quite enough Apple talk. Let's move on. Mojo Tone, if you know Mojo Tone, they've just designed a new amp based on the Marshall JCM 800, but the 2204 50-watt model. There's an 18-watt model, and it looks rather nice. And
that looks cool. That looks cool. I've heard the name Mojo Tone at some point, but
yeah, built in North Carolina. Looking at it, Burgor, NC, USA. So yeah, uses 6v6s. I'd be interested to see how 6v6s would handle in a JCM 800.
But also 18 watt. Well, that isn't 100 watt. I mean, just from the number,
yeah,
it's missing numbers.
Yeah, but for a studio guy, do we need 100 watts? If it gives us the squish.
But what I've learned is the big transformers, they give you the hefty sound. That round low end, which is why people would want the JCM. Every big versus small amp comparison, I've done it. I've done the mini JCM, which is killer, 20 watts. It's a really good amp for the money, but it's missing that
chug,
that chunk.
Yeah.
And every time I have an amp that is the big amp versus a smaller version of it, that's exactly where the difference is.
Right.
Now, you obviously notice that with the big 412 on stage and all that. Do we really need that? Because I EQ everything out under 100 hertz anyway.
I do definitely find that amp bloom does reflect in the slightly higher bass frequencies, though, that you feel it more than it's almost a psychoacoustic thing, I think.
It feels, even if you EQ the low end out, it still feels a little bit more massive. In a mix, realistically, I don't know who would care or notice. Again, I just tracked a thing with an amp for $200, which is 15 watts. But if you're going for the JCM tone, then part of that sound comes from its 100 wattage, and also headroom is a thing.
Yes. I've got one of the little 20-watt JCM 800 studios, and I really quite like it, but when you really put everything on 10, it doesn't quite do that thing.
Nope.
Yeah.
No.
Although I have got a mod coming for it.
It's physics, it's like, it's the Large Hadron Collider.
Oh, da-dum. Henning Pauly, ladies and gentlemen.
That's what I do.
I do wonder though, like if it was money no expense, if you put like a proper 50-watt sized transformer in one of these, even with the 18-watt output out of the valves, if you weren't planning on running it super loud, would that give you that feel? Maybe. It's the question, isn't it? It's always the question. Because I would imagine that part of doing it with a small power section is they're saving money by putting small transformers in it, which then you end up with exactly what you said. I mean, it's $1,100 new, which is significantly less than.
That isn't bad.
Yeah, it's not bad, but it's significantly less than the Marshall equivalent full size amp would have cost you, I think.
Don't know. In Europe, the JCM 800 is it flip flops between over $2,000 and 15 something, but I think the 100-watt JCM is like 1,500 something euro. In the US, it's utterly insane because one channel JCM 800 is $3,000.
Wow,
which is utterly ridiculous because at $3,000, you can buy other amps.
Yeah, that's the thing. In England, like just as an example, just before lockdown hit, I was out in Manchester with my partner, and we came out of the pub and I tripped over and fell on the floor. I turned around and I just tripped over just a stray JCM 800 that was just left on the street.
You're paving the roads with them. I mean, come on, it's England. Of course.
Yeah, they're very, very common. I keep looking at because they have the name as well, the JCM 800. They are more expensive, which in the UK means £700, not $3,000.
It's literally in the US. I mean, if I wanted a JCM 800, I buy the Friedman Phil X, which is like a really nicely built high-end JCM 800. And there's of course other amps that can give you this.
Yeah. I mean, I saw a DSL, a dual super lead, which I kind of like on the Facebook Marketplace this week for £300, and it was in good condition as well. Marshalls in the UK, they're just cheap. I've paid so much for my Mesa though. If I was in California, it'd be like the joke about tripping over one. Yeah. Anywho.
Yeah, Road King, that's an expensive amp.
Yeah, and I love it. It's amazing. And I only use one channel. That's the thing. But it's a hell of a channel. It's the Modern on the channel 4, and it's so chewy. It's got no definition or anything. It's just a wall of junk.
I was going to say, that's Mod Central. Come on.
That's why I love it. Because quite often in a recording, I'll layer on top something like an 800, which is all definition. And between them, it just sounds like...
the Mesa will fill, but it won't be defined. It's all pad.
Did I ever mention that I'm a terrible guitarist? And that I can hide it all under a wall of noise? Yeah, that's the thing for me, is I can hide a lot under gain. Like if I ever go to do a lead line with the Road King, I look down and I think about picking, but I don't need to because there's so much gain, it's making noise already.
Okay, that might be just the amp for you.
Exactly. I love that sound. It's just early 2000s new metal, no definition. Thank you very much. Good night.
Chernobyl Studio says, is that like buying an Engel in Germany?
I think so.
Engel and Marshall, same thing in between here and the US. In the US, not cheap.
No.
In Germany, I mean, really, the new Fireball 25 that's built in Germany, not Eastern Europe, nowhere. It's built in Germany by the guys from Engel at their factory. good components, a good amp, 828 euros
Wow.
in the shop.
That's in the shop. Wow.
828 euro for a 25 watt Engel Fireball 25 with built-in attenuator, everything. That's a kick-ass deal. Then in the US, you're probably looking at 14 to 1500.
Well, yeah, because import tax and everything, they get them. They get them bad.
It's that, and they don't have a team over there. They don't have Engel US, so they have to go through distribution.
Oh,
which means
€200 or €300 cut. Yeah.
The ESP is distributing them. That means they want money. Whereas in Europe, Engel directly sends the stuff to the shops, and instead of making the amps more expensive, they actually just pass it on to the customer, which is good. Marshall has a distributor in Germany, Musik Meyer. I would assume that in England they're possibly doing it themselves.
Yes, I would have thought so.
And that's another couple of $100 you can save on the amp because there's no distributor, and that's why Mesa was so expensive for years because in Europe, Mesa's in the US not too bad.
Yeah.
And in Europe, you go through this distributor and you add 30%.
As far as I know, Andertons are now the Mesa distributor in the UK, which means that immediately $400 or $500 went off the price overnight. Because Andertons are big enough that they could buy them in like huge quantities. That's to the best of my knowledge. So yeah, they buy them directly, but in quantity.
As far as I heard, they got rid of all the distribution and doing it all themselves.
Right, so they must have just worked out a deal with Andertons because they put out a video last year about, hey, we've got all these Mesas, get them cheap. So
the prices dropped considerably on every model because they cut out the distributors. They've worked with Meinl for 20 years.
Right.
And Meinl now doesn't have Mesa anymore. And what happened is the cut that Meinl usually took is now gone from the price.
Yes.
They simply weren't competitive. John Petrucci amp for $4,500. Come on.
Yeah. That's
Mark
too much.
$4,000. And when you can buy a Rev 100p for $2,200. It simply wasn't competitive.
Very true. Well, let's talk about the next article then, because we go from the very expensive to the very cheap. Nux's new Duo Time crams 5 rack-style stereo delays and a looper for $149. So, yeah, lots and lots of delays in a tiny, tiny pedal. I don't suppose you've got one of these on the way, have you, Henning?
No, Nux doesn't work with me.
Oh,
because I said, guys, look at the Chinglish on your website. You really need help with that shit. And their descriptions were horrible.
Oh, we make good delay with many repeat time.
And apparently they didn't take well to that, and also they weren't very big on paying for my work.
Yeah.
Which is kind of part of the deal. I can't eat a delay.
I could try.
I mean, I have many delays in, but I'm still freaking hungry.
If you do eat a delay, just be careful. It might repeat on you. Hey.
Wow. No, I'd love to cover this stuff. I love to cover inexpensive things, but especially with the Chinese company, say, look, this is my rate. And they're like, oh, wait, we were going to give you a free sample. I'm like, yeah. Those times are over. I've done that until I had 30,000 subscribers. I've done hundreds of videos for free samples. And at some point, I've built an audience. You've been in here.
Yeah.
The video equipment here is $100,000 or something. I can't do what I do for free samples. It doesn't work.
Yeah, you've definitely got beyond that point. That's for sure.
Yeah. And so I'd love to cover this. I have a hunch that it's decent for the price.
It looks nice.
Yeah, the Nux stuff isn't bad.
But yeah, the reason I bring up Nux is because of our next news article. Because who are Nux making pedals for now that's been a kerfuffle last couple of weeks? Amazon. Have you seen this? Amazon now have Amazon Basics pedals, yes. And inside, it's a Nux pedal.
Of course it is.
And it's exactly the same damn pedals that they make for everybody else. There's nothing special about them.
Of course, it's literally the same thing. Go back up. I mean, not the lady, but the pedals. Oh, that I'd review that if you know what I mean.
Hey.
So there's a boost with bass and treble. Okay.
Yep. There's a drive that's green. How about that? Totally not a tube screamer, except that it is. There's a very
and the looper that everyone has, and distortion, which is red. So that's gonna be. It might, I don't know. The Donna has the one that's kind of like a high-end distortion. It could be an OCD, but we don't know.
Yep, there's a very edible-looking delay right now. He said you can't eat a delay. That one looks rather tasty.
Yeah, I mean, I assume that's like a fake digital delay.
Probably.
Fake analog delay.
Yeah, like
analog
heavily filtered.
Sound achieved digitally, which they all do.
Yeah, and then a Ross compressor knockoff. Yeah. So, yeah, nice. Moving on.
How much are they? $29?
They're like $29 each. And thing is, I mean, as much as some people are like, oh, stop giving your money to China and Jeff Bezos, and it's like, well, they're not for people like you and me. That's the thing. They're for people who don't really play guitar and want to just try something. And maybe that's what gets them into playing guitar. And then they realize that these things aren't great. And then they watch our videos and they realize what's good. And then they go out and buy the good things.
I mean, many people during the lockdown and now lockdown again started playing guitar.
Yeah.
And it's all new to them. So where did they get their guitar? Maybe they actually got it on Amazon. They don't know about Andertons and Thomann and all that stuff. So that might be why there's now pedals from Amazon. Because those people now, new lockdown, they need the next thing. They already have a guitar. Maybe they want a delay and a distortion. I thought about doing something on them. I mean, Trey clearly has done it, and
yes, as we saw his lovely face.
99% that Amazon didn't send them to Trey.
Yeah, but for that price, I mean, if you want to make content on it, you're not hugely out of pocket. And
no, but
Trey's probably thinking that he's going to get enough views off it that it justifies the very tiny cost.
I mean, you get the money of the pedal back, but my thing is, I was like, well, should I advertise for a company for free and even spend? What's the benefit to me? I buy the thing, I make a video, I get a few thousand clicks. That's all fine. Benefit to the viewer? They're getting a good review, an honest review, and they know what's up. So I think that might be the reason to do it. So there's actually some, Trey is probably honest too, because he didn't get paid for that.
Yeah. I mean, maybe what you could do is, like, it wouldn't be very good for your metrics because it'd be really short, but just make a video that is just, they're cheap, and play them all at once, and then just cut to the animals.
No, I would actually review them. I mean, maybe not do the big ass produced track because that's all work. Yeah. But doing a really fair review like I do with every pedal. Only question is, do I then appear to be one of the guys that does exactly what everyone else is doing, what Ryan's doing, what Trey's doing? Here's, let's get the Amazon pedals and look at them. I mean,
yeah, haha, look, a pedal. Yeah. It's like, yes,
I usually have no problem saying if something's bad. In that case, Jeff Bezos isn't going to come after me and all of a sudden not pay me because
he already wasn't. Yeah,
he already wasn't. Realistically, the thing is, how much can you mess up the Tube Screamer?
Oh, I've seen people drive on 10. What? No, stop that.
I mean, which one would one get?
I mean, if you were a beginner guitarist, I think you'd probably end up with the red distortion and the looper, because the looper seems to be the favorite toy for guitarists who don't really know what they're doing, to use it twice, not like it, and then leave it in a drawer. My dad does that. My dad plays guitar, but he kind of plays and then doesn't play. And then he's like, hey, I bought another looper. And I'm like, Dad, you're not going to get any joy from this.
How does one find them?
What,
on Amazon?
Guitar pedal. Distortion pedal. I would imagine they have tilted the algorithm in their own favor.
Guitar pedal. Let's see what happens. Donna, $24.99.
Isn't Donna made by Nux as well?
That's a good question. They look like they're made by Moore.
Oh, Moore, right? Because there's
here's a Coco that's literally called Coco. It's the company.
Coco,
and that's definitely the Nux.
Right.
Coco Mini Overdrive pedal is definitely the Nux.
Mm. Who's Mosquier? Is Mosquier a separate one, or is that?
Yeah, there's Tom's Line. There's Muslady Golden Horse.
Yeah, that's the same company as Mosky the Golden Horse. I have the Silver Horse, and it's actually really good. I mean,
there's Aroma. There's a company called Aroma. Oh my God, this is horrible.
They literally just pick a word, and sometimes it's not even a real word.
There's Donna, but you know what? None of the Moore, Donna, not the Amazon ones. Amazon guitar pedal Amazon Basics. Here we go. Nope.
That's interesting.
I can't get them in Germany.
Maybe they've sold out. I mean,
nope. I can tell you what it is.
If they know it's you and they're a guitar reviewer and they've gone and block him.
You mean they see my name? They're like, no. We're not going to show him those pedals. Nuh-uh. Now, we have different, and I guarantee you that's what it is. We have different rules in Germany as for what products have to be, what certifications they have to have.
Oh, right, okay. Well, actually,
and there's a CE norm that they have to have. And REACH, which is what kind of chemicals and poisons are in there.
Okay.
When Thomann gets a new product, it has to be REACH certified. So everything has to be checked for poisons and whatever. You see, there's the Coco, which is weird because if that Coco Mini Overdrive, and I like to say Coco,
Coco.
If that is on Amazon, that is the exact same pedal, which means Nux or Coco must have that certification.
Right.
So if the certification exists for the Coco Mini Overdrive pedal, the question is, do they need to get the certification again for the Amazon Basics one?
I would imagine it'll take them a little time to just process the paperwork on that.
But I guarantee you that that's why they don't have them, because they don't have the CE certification and the REACH certification ready for Germany yet.
Yeah. Well, interestingly, I'm searching. I'm not seeing any of the Amazon pedals either. So I wonder if it's only US for now. I wonder if the stock just hasn't got to Europe yet. I mean, that's the other possibility, is that either that or because there's been this big uproar about, Amazon Basics Overdrive pedals, everybody's gone and bought them.
Yeah, and Nux can't produce them fast enough. Nux, that isn't a huge company.
No.
So that might very well be. Well, that puts a very simple answer on the question: are we going to review them? No, we won't. We won't.
No. Well, let's talk about another thing we probably won't review. Cherry Audio have made their own software version of the ARP 2800. I do like Go on.
As have many others.
Yes. Behringer, of course, have made a software version that's in a box. Arguably. No, they've made hardware replica. Have you seen the Behringer 2600?
Nope.
Yep, they're about $400, and it's a real ARP 2600, $400, $500.
Yeah, but it's not an analog one.
Well, no, it's fully analog.
Really?
Yep, really.
Damn Behringer.
Well, they own their own factories, so they literally make their own components these days. So they can make them so cheap. And Korg are making the same machine for $3,000, I believe. And yeah, I wonder who's going to sell more.
Well, not with the same components, I would assume, but...
Well, Behringer are using Behringer branded components. That's the thing. I mean, they can probably make it to spec, but just not with Philips capacitors or whatever.
I don't know. Have you seen Glenn's review on the Clark Technic compressor?
Yes, and that was a completely different design to a Pultec inside.
And, well, Clark Technic is Behringer.
Yes, that's true. That's very true. But then the Clark Technic EQ never claimed to be a Pultec. It just looked like it. Whereas the Behringer 2600 is a 2600. They claim it to be. So I think that's the critical difference. Is that the Clark Technic was like, hey, look, we've got an EQ with big knobs on and a tube in. And they never said it was a Pultec clone. That was the thing that, yeah. I mean, Glenn was right. It was terrible. But it wasn't claiming to be anything else. Although it looked suspiciously like a Pultec.
Yeah, I'd be curious to hear their ARP next to a real, like an old one.
Mm. Oh, I would too. But yeah, so if that's not enough for you, then there's this software version, which apparently they've modeled something like 15 different versions of a 2600. And it's $25, so just buy that.
It's $25. I have the full Arturia package with all the classic synths.
Oh,
so,
me too. I love it. Oh.
Yeah, question is, how many times do you use that?
Oh, I use it more than you might think. Because I like background pads and synths and stuff in what I do. And if I had $1 million, I would buy vintage synths. I don't, so Arturia is my thing. Like
I just got the native collector's edition 13 bundle.
Oh yeah,
and
it takes up a whole hard drive.
I have a problem with all that stuff because it prevents you from making music.
Yeah.
Yeah, because back when I produced the albums in LA, I had several synths. I had a JV880. I had a Korg Z1, I had an additive Kawai K5000.
Right.
And all of those had 2 banks of 128 sounds.
That's a lot of sounds.
And I knew every single sound. I knew if I wanted a lead, there were a couple there that I liked. And also, your collection of synth defined your tone.
Right.
Because you had a certain kind of synth.
Sure.
And that means, and you always used certain leads, certain pads that they had, which means that was your sound.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And someone else had a different collection of synth, and that was their sound. So I needed a soft pad. I had 3 or 4 to go to. I checked those, and then I made music with them.
Right.
Now you go to Kontakt. Within Kontakt, I have 200 different engines.
Yeah.
Then you find the engine that you think fits you best, and then you go to presets. If you just want to go to presets, and you will never make it past the A's.
Yes.
You will spend 2 hours going through the A's looking for presets. Forget about the B's. You will never see the B's.
It's a good point.
The thing is, I must have on my computer, and I literally installed 2 things. I installed the native complete something, a 13, and the
software activation.
And I have only these 2 things for synth and everything else. And you will never, ever. There are hundreds of thousands of presets.
Yeah.
So at what point do you get to let's make music with them? Because you're looking for a pad. Okay, that pad's fine. That pad's fine. That's even. Oh my God! Look at that pad. And what if I go to D? Look at that pad. But I could also use another synth. At what point do you just say, I know which one to use? Because the times where I was doing a song and I know Z1 patch number 47, bam, I knew the sound I wanted to go to.
Right.
Those times are over. So you're looking for presets. At the point where I find a preset that I know I like, realistically, my inspiration's gone. What did I really want to do with this?
Right. Now, it's interesting you say that, because I used to write music the other way around. I used to write for TV and film stuff, so I would always write to a brief. So I would, but always the client would give us a really vague kind of, oh, I want this to be happy, but this, that, and it's like, right, okay, well, I know exactly the kind of type of music, but then I would go bank surfing, but very quickly just like have one finger on the preset next button and just go chord, nope, that one, and move on. And yeah,
that's the thing. The only way to survive now is to tell yourself anything over a minute, not going to happen. So whatever preset you liked most within the first minute, that's the one you're using.
Yes.
Because otherwise it just spins out of control. And I don't have the times anymore where I know which one to use. You know, like, yeah, you surf through presets, but do you really know, okay, I need a cool lead. I know exactly where it is.
Yes.
Because you don't remember anymore. And on the Arturia stuff, I technically have everything I need to have the best synth basses in the world.
Yeah.
And I never find the good synth bass, which is ridiculous because I got the Moog and the modular and all this stuff. And then you go open a mini Moog, and then you go to bass, and there's a list of 400 basses. And the one I really have in my head, I don't really find.
Right.
I go through presets and I don't find it, and I'm like, maybe I do something else and just pick up a real bass because I can actually get the result. I feel the multitude of A, different instruments, and B, ridiculous amounts of presets in them isn't conducive, is that the word?
Yeah.
To actually making music with them. It's the same thing with the plugins that I said. I'd rather go to my 1176 and LA2A, and those are my choices.
Yeah.
And the Vertigo, those are the three I use, rather than sitting there in a mix and spending 2 hours going through different compressors.
Yes.
At which point you don't even know which one is the one that's best. You have no idea anymore. So I'd rather get a good result with what I know.
Yeah.
Than this ridiculous. Says the guy who sits in a room with, I don't know, 30 guitars.
Yeah. But then you do with guitars what I do with things like synths, I think, which is you take some time every now and again to learn them like a catalog, so that in your head, you know, when the time comes, you can go, that one. But you don't do that all the time, because if you did, you'd get nothing done.
And 30 is still different than thousands.
Yes. But then, like, I've got used to like the way that the preset management systems work in there, that I'll very quickly, you know, with the native instrument stuff, I'll go bass, dark, strings, you know, narrow it down so I get 5 choices.
Yeah. And obviously there are very many parts of Contact that I don't even touch. I mean, I don't have to check the Cuban plugin to know that I don't need Cuban percussion, or the Indian, or the tabla, or whatever.
Yeah.
You'll find the tools that will get the job done. If I do anything orchestral, obviously I use, you know, those tools are amazing. Rise and Hit is amazing, and then what are they called? Action strings, action hits.
Oh yeah,
the stuff that's really performed by an orchestra in time. There's some beautiful stuff, and you get the job done.
Yes, indeed there is. Although sometimes I find that stuff frustrating when there's a particular articulation in your mind and it won't do it, and you're like, ah. But then
what I do now is, because I have a guitar channel, and I literally don't do anything other than the guitar channel. I just do any synth stuff with the guitars.
I suppose. I mean, what, like get a boss synthesizer?
If I want a pad, I have a much more fun time to put like a nice ambient delay and a shimmer reverb on the table and find out how I can get the same effect with the guitar, which is much more organic for me, and probably faster than going through loads of presets to find a synth pad, which wouldn't be relevant to my channel, whereas doing it with the guitar is relevant.
Yeah. Makes sense. Right, let's speed along. So I'm going to skip a news article. Biffy Clyro have released a signature boom blast distortion pedal, which there's no details yet, but it's one of those. It looks a bit homemade. It's got 5 knobs, and Simon Neil from Biffy Clyro is known for, of all things, using a Metal Zone live. And so, is this a Metal Zone replacement? Is the question.
I think it is. I heard it on an Instagram clip on that pedal show.
Okay.
Where he's apparently going to be in playing it.
Simon's going to be on there. Right, okay.
Yeah, probably tomorrow.
Yeah.
Just looking at it, it's too big.
Yeah, that is pretty big. I wonder if it's all handmade stuff where they've made it so big so that they didn't have to do little T-Rex hands trying to get the components in, or maybe it's just to make a bigger impression.
I love the design with the line on it. That's the same thing he's got on his cap. That's totally cool. But Marty V, what the fuck is a Biffy Clyro? Dude, you gotta check out Biffy Clyro. It is mind-blowingly brilliant music. And you listen to it, and you will not believe that he plays a Strat with single coils and a Metal Zone. How he gets those tones, I don't understand.
No, me too. It's like, that's a really great guitar sound. What? Metal Zone? Real?
The sounds are insane. The songs are insane. The singing is insane. He sings while he plays. How he does that, I don't know. Biffy Clyro is one of those bands that one has to have experienced.
Yes, I've seen them live, and they're very, very good.
But as for a pedal with that size, this isn't going to be for the guy that likes, I wouldn't mind having that on my board. That's for a diehard fan, because you're sacrificing pretty much the space of 3 other pedals on your board.
I don't know if it's that big.
Look at it.
It's like 2.5 widths of a Boss pedal, maybe. So, I mean, you're going to have to take out 3 Metal Zones to put it on there, but you've still got space for the other 7 Metal Zones.
Nothing, I think nothing in that pedal could justify the size. No tech in that pedal, because it's an overdrive. I mean, we know they can be tiny.
Yeah, well, maybe that's the joke. Maybe you open it and it is a tiny little PCB, like surface mount capacitors and everything, so it's the tiniest little thing. That would be hilarious.
Like Robert says, pedalboard real estate is expensive. And
get a bigger pedal board. Is that not the right answer, guitarists around the world? Come on. If there's not enough space on the board, you need a bigger board. If there's no bigger board, you need a second board.
I would say with the pedal board, make it as small as possible. You have to carry it. Make it as small as possible while still getting everything that you wanted to do.
That's what roadies and partners are for.
Hey, Leslie, can you carry my pedal board? Fuck off!
Yep, there you go.
That's it.
So, moving on. Epiphone have released the Prophecy series again, which I think it's they'd done a Prophecy series before, I think. These look really pretty.
Yeah, but why are we? But Adam, why are we talking about them?
Because they got Fishman Fluence pickups in, and I like them.
Yeah, but why do we give a flying rat's ass what a bully company does?
Moving on.
Epiphone is Gibson. Gibson's distorting people. Why are we giving them? We just gave them like 30 seconds of screen time.
Apparently, you're privy to something I'm not. Gibson just make guitars, and I don't look at them any more than that.
Yeah, they're the mafia.
Ah.
Do you want to know why? I'll tell you.
Go on.
Okay. So Gibson's suing everyone.
That much I'm aware of.
Okay, so they're suing the smaller builders because the guitars look like a V or a single cut or whatever.
Yeah.
So Les Paul and V. I mean, they're even suing people that make the Randy Rhoads kind of V because it's a V.
Oh.
Which Gibson never made. But they're not suing Fender Jackson.
Yeah.
Because they have too much money. They're suing the small builder. They're suing Sully Guitars. They're suing all the small guys. And the reason why they're doing it is not because they want to win the lawsuit. They don't. because they can't win the lawsuit over the guitar shapes.
Right.
They've lost all lawsuits in Europe. They've lost the lawsuit against PRS. They know they can't win it. If the lawsuit was coming to fruition, then there would be a precedent saying, Gibson, okay, you don't own these shapes.
Yeah.
So they don't want to go to court. They just want to sue the small companies because they have the financial power to keep it going right before there's a decision, and then they drop it.
Yes.
Meaning they are taking those companies to court. They're out of money. In England, they're not suing companies in England. In England, if they then take it back or they lose, they would have to pay the court and the lawyer bills for the other company too.
Yes.
In America, if you get sued, you have to defend yourself. You're out of money, even if you were in the right.
Right.
So what they're doing is they're threatening the small builder with the lawsuit. The small builder, even though they're in the right, and even though there is no precedence of Gibson owning these shapes, which they wouldn't, is therefore rather entering into a licensing agreement with Gibson, saying, okay, let me pay you something for being able to build those shapes, even though Gibson doesn't own them.
So it's a racket. Yes.
It is protection money.
Yeah, a racket.
They're paying Gibson protection money so they don't get sued. But here's another thing. In 5 or 10 years, Gibson's going to turn around and say, wait a second, look, courts. I mean, right now they can't win any lawsuit because they would. You can't protect the shape.
Right.
But let's say in 5 years, they're going to say, wait, Mr. Courtman, Mr. Judge, why are all these small builders paying us to use the shape when you would argue, it's not ours? They all, the whole guitar community agrees with us. Yeah. Therefore, they're paying us licensing fees. And then they're going to go and argue that they can protect the shapes. And do you know why they want to protect the shape?
Money.
No, they don't. Yeah. But do you think about the guitars?
Yeah.
Do you think it's about guitars?
Well, I guess not, because that's where you're leading this. Go on.
Yes. The company that bought Gibson doesn't give a flying rat's ass about the guitar selling.
Right.
They care about the Les Paul, the Explorer, and the Flying V.
Merchandise.
Movies. T-shirts. Hello Kitty handbags.
Right.
If there's a Hello Kitty handbag and Hello Kitty is playing a Flying V, Gibson wants money.
Right.
This is the long game they're playing. They want the name Gibson in everything, all these shapes. They want the little figure with Slash playing a Les Paul. The bobblehead figure. Yeah. They want that money. They want the big ass hotel that's shaped like a Les Paul. They want money of everyone that sleeps in that hotel. They want those shapes to belong to Gibson. They don't care about the sales they make from guitars. They don't give a flying rat's ass. So the way to do it is right now they can't get money for, they can't win a lawsuit for the shapes. And if they went to court, they would lose them, and then there's a precedence, and then the money, the companies was not worth nothing. So they're extorting these small builders by suing them. The builders are paying them a licensing fee. A couple years from now on, they have so many builders that are paying them licensing fees that they go to the courts and saying, well, look, they all agree. That's what they're doing.
Right.
And that's mafia bullshit. And I won't stand for it. So
that's fair.
I said it once, I will say it again. Gibson, Epiphone, Kramer, Steinberger. They put $50,000 in cash on my table and say, make one video.
Say no.
I'll shove that right up their ass. I wouldn't do it.
That's fair. Rob Krasinski in chat says, let's ask Behringer to make Gibson-shaped guitars. Behringer will eat them.
It's not a bad idea. It's,
yeah.
Also not the most ethical company in the world, but...
sometimes you got to fight fire with fire, right?
I will do anything to support the companies that Gibson has sued, which is Sully Guitars and, a couple of others. And just had a beautiful chat with Heritage Guitars this morning, which are all they're the old builders from Gibson. You know that, right?
I did not.
Heritage, when Gibson moved from the original factory in Kalamazoo, I think.
Right.
Some of the old guys wanted to stay behind, and they bought the building. And back in the day, they made an agreement with Gibson. There is an agreement, a written agreement, that they are allowed to continue to build Les Pauls in that shape. There is an agreement. And now Gibson sued them.
Great. Okay, let's move on before this just goes on forever.
Just so now you're filled in.
Yes, I am very filled in. I am full of filled in.
Good.
So this last one, if you have an iPhone, I know you're not a fan of the iPhone, but if you got an old one that's rubbish, turn it into a stomp box. Play drums with it. So a company called Beat.
Wait, what? What? You put an iPhone in there?
Yep, and you hit it with your feet, and it makes noise. And that's even before you turn the phone on. No. So let's have a look. Beat Bars has come up with an innovative use. So I'm guessing there's an app they've made, and that there's some sort of capacitive touch on the underneath of these, maybe, so that when you put your feet on them, there's even an expression pedal. That's not gonna last. It's got Allen keys spray painted on the side.
But how is that connected?
These you'll slide the iPhone in, and it will be capacitive touch. It'll just be an app that's got a couple of screen sensors, so when you press it with your foot, it just
yeah.
So it's like hand drums.
But the expression pedal is different than the 2-button thing.
That is true. Let's find out. Cardboard expression pedal looks just like a Roland EV5 made out of cardboard. You run their little MIDI expression pedal app, Wi-Fi or Bluetooth it to your computer, and slip the phone in the end. Oh, right. So as you move it, it uses the gyroscope sensor in the phone to work out whether it's flat or whether it's...
So wait. So the thing is, let me get that straight. The thing is, I buy this thing for whatever.
Yeah.
$30 probably, $20.
Yeah.
And I use my $1,200 phone.
I think the idea is to use like an old iPhone 4 or something that's no longer useful. But yes, carry on.
$1,200 device, even an old iPhone 4, is going to run you $150.
Oh no, they're not.
$100
On eBay, you probably for an iPhone 3GS maybe you might be looking at $30.
But
they're worth nothing these days.
You could also buy an expression pedal, which isn't more expensive.
Yeah, but this is made of cardboard and has Bluetooth. It's got some hipster cred.
Talking about that. Segue. I had the roofers in yesterday, and they were installing a new drain pipe.
Right.
And I asked, does it have Bluetooth? Because we all know everything's better with Bluetooth.
Yes.
But sadly, it does not.
Half the stuff in my studio is bloody Bluetooth these days. I was quite lucky that I got a new slider that didn't come with Bluetooth. It came with its own remote. So I was like, thank God for that. Another app I don't have to install.
I have all the Edelkrone stuff with obviously the app.
Yeah.
But as soon as they came out with it on the same day, I bought the remote.
Yes. So no more stupid app.
I don't know what's faster. Hooking it up with this and saying which parts you're doing and or the app. And the app is a little bit quicker to set up.
Right.
And also this eats through batteries within an hour and a half.
Mm-hmm.
So within one shoot, I just did slide shots today. It kind of runs out of batteries.
Oh, that's poor.
It's super solid. I mean, it's really beautifully built, but for some situations I use that. For more complicated shots, I use the app. So, yeah, but I understand what you're saying, the whole Bluetooth. Some Bluetooth stuff is ultra simple to hook up and always works.
Yeah.
And some Bluetooth stuff is pretty annoying.
Yeah, sometimes it's flaky, I find. It just cuts off after 2 minutes, and you're like, I'm going to be using this for 2 hours. What are you doing? Yeah, it's just like...
Oh, the Edelkrone is good about that. Actually, when the Edelkrone app is open, the phone automatically doesn't even go into sleep mode.
That's good. But then does your phone battery go like 85, 4, 3, 2?
No, because I have an Apple.
I have an Apple that's also a phone, not a fruit. But still, the battery can go down when I'm using it. I use it a lot.
It's still okay. About 2.5 years old, but I can order a new one tomorrow.
Go on then. Anyway.
Oh, I will. I don't know why. I don't know what the 12 does, except for apparently.
Sorry.
Not more.
Wait. I nearly spat out.
No, that's the metal one. How much are these?
50 euros for the expression pedal and 40 euros for the foot switch. Not including iPhone. Gee whiz.
Okay, that's like a Kickstarter campaign about to fail.
Yeah, this was our finally news article because this is like I like to put something stupid at the end, and this definitely qualifies for that.
You had me in this whole thing, so you got stupid all the way through.
Hey.
But I mean, come on.
I got given something like this for Christmas a couple of years ago, and it didn't last a week.
These little gadgets and gimmicks, they can't be that much. Otherwise, how in the world would we say anything positive about them? I just did a video which is going to come out. I can give you a preview.
Oh.
For this, do you know what this is?
It looks like a guitar strap thing, but I don't know.
Yep.
Is it Bluetooth?
Sadly not. Wait, do I have it? Here, I'll show you.
It looks like it just makes your guitar strap a little longer.
That's exactly what it does.
Oh, but it's Bluetooth.
But it's Bluetooth. So, with these straps, which are of course nice to have,
yeah.
I always use DiMarzio clip locks because you can really adjust them quickly.
Oh right, no, I they're not my thing. But go on.
So with these, which are cool to use and nice on the shoulder and all this,
yeah.
But once they're in one position, they're in one position.
Yes.
I mean, try to adjust the length of this. That's annoying. So
yep.
I don't like one position. I mean, I like to be able to, have the guitar higher for a solo and then be really cool and have it on my knees.
Henning likes multiple positions, everybody.
So you clip it in here. So in the back, see there's a little nubby.
Yeah.
And that little cord actually holds like 80 kilo or something.
Oh, right.
Or
okay.
more.
That's a lot for that little thing.
It's ridiculous. So what you do is you push that. Done.
Oh.
And your guitar's down here. You look all cool. Oh, but you can literally go done. And now it's back up here.
Do that in the middle of a show and look smooth. Why don't you?
You can. This strap doesn't glide, but if you have something that really glides over your shoulder, you can adjust up for solo and then really down for the rest.
You know what you really need on that, and this isn't a joke. Bluetooth. Honestly, that sounds with a motor. That sounds really stupid. But if it's on a foot pedal, if you can raise and lower it remotely without taking your hands off the fretboard.
Yeah, then it's $150.
Yeah, but how important is this to you?
Not. It isn't.
Well, there you go. That should be in the review. How important is this to you? It's not. Ladies and gentlemen, go and buy it.
I don't play live, but if I did, that's what I would use. Because this, I look. I mean, visually, I love this strap. I would have a strap lock here.
Yes, I use the Dunlop strap locks, but yeah, I won't leave home without strap locks.
Yeah, I would have strap locks on both ends, and you can put strap locks in here.
Right.
But I would absolutely use the drop strap because I would want to adjust the height to be comfortable.
Right.
And it's well built. This is actually leather. It's a cool concept. It works. and they're selling it for $29. See, that's something I can get behind that.
Not unreasonable. I can imagine one of those being in my Christmas present pile, in with the socks on Christmas Day.
There are so many gadgets that I look at for guitar players that companies want me to push, and I'm like, yeah, I can't say that actually makes a lot of sense. What was it? Well, I never talked to the company. Audio Buddy or something. It's a little amp suction cup that you put on your guitar. Have you seen that?
No. What?
It's a little suction cup. It looks like a mushroom.
Okay.
I think it's called Audio Buddy, and it sucks on your guitar, and it's a little speaker. The thing is, it sounds ghastly because it's this big.
Yeah.
You plug your guitar in, and it's got a little distortion. It's supposed to be like you practice with it, and that's all fine if it was $29, but it's $89.
That's a lot.
Now at $89, that's not a little toy. At $89, that's crap.
Yeah, $89. I mean, you can get yourself a full-size terrible practice amp for that.
Exactly. And so too many of these gadgets are highly overpriced, like the cardboard thing.
Yeah.
29 is fine. I can totally be okay with 29 for this.
Okay, that's weird, but sure. Okay, let's move on to the next section of the show, which is, and this I'm looking forward to, questions from the chat for Henning.
I gotta run. I gotta. Oh, look at me! I gotta go somewhere.
Well, that was the podcast, ladies and gentlemen.
Fine then.
Which actually we're already 40-something minutes over the supposed runtime, so that's all good.
Well, then keep the questions short.
Okay, 3 more hours it is. You can't possibly beat Warren Hewitt's record of 3 hours and 10.
I totally can. Wait, do I still have coffee? No. Damn it. No, I cannot.
Leslie?
Poo Ninja asks, can I have the gem sewer? No, you cannot.
Well, that was an easy one.
Henning, what chair is that? Herman Miller Aeron.
Has it been, genuine question, has it been worth it? Because I'm sat on a terrible chair right now and I'm starting to feel it.
I'm thinking about buying another one.
What, same model?
Yeah. I bought this used for $500.
Okay.
One of the first things I bought when I started working with Thomann on their videos, I had some money, because it is the chair that you want. And I don't mind it having the armrests. I'll just sit up front, but the lumbar support, so this is all fabric.
Okay.
And there is in the back a movable lumbar support right down here. You're supposed to move up here.
But you don't.
No, when I lean back, it pops out because that foam is broken. And I show you what I've done. I've tried literally everything.
Oh, wow. It's hell plates for days.
It's on all sides.
Wow.
So it's broken, and it just, if I lean into it, it does this, and then it pops out, and it pops out of the back. So when you have that in your back, it's nice, but I can't. So I was thinking about getting a brand spanking new one. They made some improvements since this model. It's a nice, yeah, it's so nice. But if I lean back a little bit, it's gonna go clock and be on the floor.
Right, okay.
It's an extremely nice chair, which is the reason why you see it in every studio, why you see it in boardrooms of very wealthy companies.
Yeah, things I'm seeing mixed reviews. That I've seen a few prominent YouTubers who have them and are like, right, I'm sending it back. I hate it. But I've also seen a few people who are like, it's changed my life, and I don't know which one would work for me.
I've looked at chairs. If you buy a good office chair, I went to like an office chair place. There are some where you can spend $3,000 on one.
Whew. That's just silly.
Realistically, you're starting at $500, $600, $700 for like a good one that's really adjustable.
Right.
And I mean, anything that I use on a daily basis all the time, I always tell myself that's my tool, and that's where I spend my money.
Okay.
That's why I have a good computer, because I need to depend on it. I sit on a chair, have a good chair. I have a good mouse. I will always look out for the newest, bestest mouse there is, because that's my interface to the computer.
Right.
If that is not getting my thoughts directly onto the screen, what's the point? So I don't care if that's $89 or 110. I'll buy the best mouse there is.
Fair enough. Never been a fan of the trackball?
For a while, but at some points it gets like I can't do it.
That's what I got. I got massive wrist pains from it. I've quite bad tendonitis, and yeah, I can't deal with a bad mouse. Same. And yeah, people are like, oh, you use a trackball in the studio. I'm like, well, you do that. I'm not gonna.
I've done it for a while, but no, I would get antsy. Well, on this mouse actually, I always try to get the ones where you can push the wheel to the left and right.
Oh yeah, the wiggle stick.
Because that's fast forward and reverse in Cubase for me.
Ah, nice.
I don't have to get my hand over to the keyboard to do that. And I think pushing it used to be play or something. So, I mean, that's definitely very handy.
Yeah. That's a nice little shortcut. I like that. Might start assigning macros to random buttons on one of the mice I've got here. I've got 2 next to me just because I lost one and then found it again. But now it's turned out that my 2-year-old daughter comes up to my computer and tries to use it a lot. So now this is her mouse and it doesn't have a battery in it. So she can be like, yay! And I can be like, okay, great. You're not destroying my work.
I will I literally probably have 20 mice and all like high-end Logitech, whatever. I can highly recommend the G900.
Cool. Good to
Unpaid
know.
Advertisement. I continuously look for, something, what's better, but this is, it's extremely good. The only thing is, after maybe 2 days, it wants to be charged. So I have the cable on the table.
Right.
Plug it in for like 2 hours, work with the cable, then pull it back out.
Yeah, okay. Yours didn't turn up as just a random white mouse with the end cut off like Glenn's did twice.
Yeah. What, Henning, did you ever learn to play the rusty trombone since the live mixing session with my band?
If you don't know what a rusty trombone is, let's not. Because, oh boy.
I don't.
Maybe I'll fill you in when we're not on stream, but we keep this vaguely family friendly. And wow. I mean, we swear a bit, we drink a bit, but let's not talk about rusty trombone. Oh boy.
You can scream longer metal. I don't know how long you can scream metal.
A fairly long time. See, I said fairly. I'm not gonna say, oh, I'm the best there is, because I'm definitely not. But I used to be a professional singer, so I mean, I'm out of practice now, so that's why I'm not super confident. But metal, yes.
Let's not try it, because I might literally faint. I haven't eaten.
Will there be a new lockdown challenge? Ooh, that's a good question. We have a new lockdown that starts today. Cheers. And I believe, like you said, there's one in France, there's one in Germany, I think.
We could do that. The thing is, the last time we did it, I got over 200 videos. I had, I don't know how many prizes, like 53 prizes.
Oh, wow.
It was a massive undertaking for me to do that. If I did it, I would do it for, guys do it for fun. Here's a track, here's vocals, here's drums, write something. I actually have, we could do that with a track from the classic metal album, like literally, about dragons and castles and stuff in Atlantis.
Dragons and castles in the lost city of Atlantis, underwater, yes. Underwater dragons.
Well, no, actually, the song is called A Dragon Shall Come.
Okay.
And
the dragon is very, very happy.
Where we did lyrics where if one sentence followed another one and it made sense, we couldn't do it.
Okay, so it had to be
full on Dio lyrics.
All right.
But by accident, this song turned out, literally by accident, to be about a dragon chained in a cave in Atlantis. And the dragon happens to be incontinent. And his constant peeing sunk Atlantis.
Brilliant.
It's a good song, and I think we should do that and have people write around that.
That would be amazing. I know that the guys at Riff Hard right now are doing a competition of the best anime song that you can compose. It's like you've been tasked with making the theme song of an anime. Go. That's your only brief. It's like, oh, good God.
That could be fun.
Yes, that's for the Riff Hard members only though. So that's a thing for them to go.
I'm a Riff Hard member.
Are you?
I riff hard.
You riff hard.
Whatever became with the dual clones amp Henning spoke about last year? What do you mean? I spoke about it. I had it. I used it. There's videos. It's a good amp, but one of the problems was you have to have the app to change it. That was a stupid mistake. It should have literally also had a button on it. You can't change it with MIDI, but the problem is anything software in China isn't necessarily dependable because you don't know. I know that Joyo isn't working with the original designers anymore who did the app. So will there be updates? Will it work with the newest OS? No. So then you buy an amp, which all of a sudden doesn't switch its topography anymore because you can't use the app. It's Joyo. It's China.
Yeah.
Great idea. Well built, but
not thought out. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that makes sense. What else have we got? There was one. Was it Henning who posted videos of his amp isolation years ago? I've vaguely seen your amp isolation room, but I'm guessing you don't really use it anymore now. Load boxes are a thing.
Yeah, it's storage now. It's for me. If I have 7 cabs in ISO cabs all mic'd up, that doesn't give me anything. That's not a better sound than I can get out of an aux and a torpedo. The aux and the torpedo studio that I have will give me everything I need. And bringing back to plugins and whatever the synth,
yeah,
don't fiddle with cabs. I mean fiddle with cabs and buy the ones that Adam recorded.
Yes, of course.
That's what I mean.
Well, that's my thing. But
I think for me, it's find one that suits your needs, that works for you in a mix, and frickin' stick with it.
Yep. Still buy all of mine, but just don't use them. Just stick with the one.
Then you know how to handle it in a mix. You know that for cleans, you might need a little bit more push that way, but you can mess up a recording big time by going to an IR that right now you think is cool, and then you find out, oh, no, it has way too much bass and no mids. I've heard
it's a
more
Colin
bad
Scott
IRs.
impulse.
What?
Colin Scott impulse. All the gain, no mids.
I've heard more bad IRs that would never work in a mix than I've heard good ones.
Yeah.
And when I come across one, look, how many cabs do you need to make hit records?
17. No, 1. You need 1.
Tim Pierce has made a career in a giant multitude of styles. From Puddle of Mud to Santana to Cat Stevens.
At least he's recorded one good thing.
Right. He's recorded one.
Santana.
Tim Pierce has done so many hit records. And what does he have in his garage? He has one Marshall 412.
Makes sense, yeah.
And that's everything he does. He sends through that. And if it works for him. So for me, 95% of what I do is the aux with a 412 cream backloaded cab, because that's it works for cleans as well as drive. If I want to go more brutal, I have a brighter V30 on a different preset, but that's literally all I do.
Good stuff. Right, well, just to go with that, there's a question just popped up to follow up. What are your top 3, just to whittle it down, 2 notes cabs to use for multiple styles? Do you have a top 3, or is it 2, or just 1?
I would probably say 2 that I can think of off the top of my head. The Fortin has a Fortin collection, and there's a UK 30 and a US 30 or something.
Right.
And I think I have one preset where I'm mixing both. And I think that or just the UK30 is what we used for all of Gear Street 2.
Right.
And I love the sounds we had for Gear Street 2. The videos sounded great and balanced, and they were rocking, but the clean stuff was clean. So for me, that Fortin cab would be it. And the Rev 212 was also very good.
Yes, Rev's stuff is well captured. So yes, good for them.
But realistically, because I don't want to fiddle with it, I haven't really checked out a lot of it. They always give me the new stuff, and they're like, "Oh, try this one." And no, why? I don't know if it's going to be a major improvement over what I'm using. And I'd rather know for sure that what I'm using works than mess with it. Unless, of course, I get paid to test something, then that's different.
Yes, absolutely. Robert's asking about my top 3. My top 3 are relatively easy because they're all ones that I've captured. Which sounds hideously biased, but honestly, the reason I got into it in the first place was because there was nothing on there that I liked. This was way before...
And you captured them in a certain way because that's how you like the cab to sound.
Right. I mean, there is a certain standard you have to meet for the 2-note stuff, so you don't really get to put much of a personal touch on, but the cabs you want are the cabs you get, essentially. So my number 1 is one that I called the Big Beast, which is a traditional 4x12 from Zilla with vintage 30s in it. Works almost every time. Beyond that, the Ampeg 8x10 fridge, because again, works every damn time on bass. And then beyond that, actually, I say it works every time. There's one that I did, which I called the Brit fridge, which is a Marshall 8x10, which has a tweeter in it. And that's a lot brighter. And I use that on more modern bass stuff. So they're my top 3. But yeah, on guitar, 9 times out of 10, I go for the same cab every time. And I get the SM57 and the 421, blend them together, and hey, done.
There's 2 questions, or a couple here. Wait.
Oh, hello.
This is what I've been thinking of purchasing some gear and aux to get the stuff. What's the get an aux. Good idea.
What?
Is the Engel Savage the best Engel in the Engel lineup for metal, and why is that so? I don't think it is. I had the Savage here, and I wasn't getting friendly with it.
No.
It wasn't my thing. They took it back. Personally, I think the Fireball would be the one for me. And actually, you can get the Fireball 25 if you're not talking about super modern metal, but I mean, mostly everything else. Fireball 25 is $830, and it'll do the job. It'll get you that Engel sound.
Good stuff. Oh, go.
Wait, Bomler's asking something about Berkeley.
Oh, yes. What was your experience like, best and worst? What would you change?
Well, what would I change? Well, hindsight is 40-60 or something. I don't know what they say.
Mad Dog 2020.
See, I went to Berkeley and I wanted to be... I didn't know what I wanted to be. Maybe a songwriter, maybe an arranger, and then I ended up doing arranging and sound design. And didn't focus on guitar in any way. So I did my 4 semesters of one-on-one instruction. I did a couple of labs. I did the basic stuff you had to do for guitar to get by, because I focused on arranging, big band, strings, orchestra, all that stuff, a cappella, and sound design, which is fiddling with synth. And now, of course, I'm running a guitar channel where I have to play guitar. So in hindsight, I would say, well, wouldn't it have been good to become a guitar player at Berkeley?
But then your other skills that support what you do might not be as strong. So you can't win, can you?
Well, A, I wouldn't be the arranger that I am. I wouldn't be the recording engineer I am.
Yeah.
And B, had I focused on guitar, I wouldn't have been where I was. I wouldn't have been in LA. I wouldn't have worked at a studio for an ad agency. I wouldn't have done jingle writing with John Aldrich at Berkeley. Then I wouldn't have worked for a jingle company in LA. I wouldn't have done the albums in LA that I did with James Labrie and all these guys. I wouldn't have come back to Germany. I wouldn't be here. And probably, had I focused on guitar, I probably wouldn't need to have focused on guitar, because I probably would be working at Starbucks. So whatever choices I made or didn't make got me here. So I'm very happy that I made the choices that I made, because where I am, it's good. I know people like Adam, so life's good.
Yeah, things could be better.
Yeah. But as for Berklee in general, when I went, it was expensive. It was $9,000 a semester. So if you're looking at how much you were paying per hour instruction, you can literally get that anywhere, whether by buying private instruction, by going to a teacher one-on-one. I mean, you can literally get that education cheaper if you source it yourself. Now we're looking at close to 20 grand a semester. No room, no board, no nothing, no food.
That's ridiculous.
20 grand a semester from musicians who will never in their life be able to pay that back. Never.
It makes no sense.
That should be unconstitutional. It's utterly ridiculous. This is Harvard money. This is from musicians who will never make that money back, who will scrape by teaching. I mean, it doesn't make sense. I love the school. You go there and you have a building, a skyscraper full of the best studios in the world. There's no better place to learn all this stuff with fellow nerds that are in the middle of the night in a studio with you recording. But oh my God, 20 grand a semester is utterly ridiculous, and it's wrong. It's just wrong. So it's an amazing experience, but if someone gets a scholarship, please go. But if you had to pay for it, don't do it.
Yeah. That's my general thoughts on a lot of the upper educational system now. Is it's so expensive that unless you are going into like one of the professions, like being a doctor or something like that, it's not what you need to do to make the living. Because obviously if you're a doctor, you can't be a doctor without having all the qualifications, but then the money will then offset that later. But what we do, I mean, I studied music production at university, and I was kind of lucky that I was one of the last year really where it wasn't crazy money. But now if you said to me, hey, do you want to spend £10,000 a year or whatever it is in the UK to go and study music production? Hell no, because for 30 grand, I could buy a top of the range Mac and Pro Tools system and spend 3 years badly recording people and probably be at a better level than the people who graduate. And at the end of it, I've got the Mac and they don't.
Yes, as Evan said, it's a networking hub, and that's the thing. You are among some of the best people out there, or who will be the best people out there in the industry. And then you just know people. I mean, one of my friends that I studied with, Richard Furch, is one of the top mix engineers in LA.
Right.
Has a wall full of Grammys. And you then know these people, but also it does open doors when you go and apply for a job, even as a music teacher. You're like, I went to Berklee. They're like, okay, that's all we need to know. When I started working at Guitar Center on Hollywood Boulevard, I'm like, I went to Berklee. They're like, okay, we'll take you.
Wow.
It does open doors, the wrong doors in those cases, but it does open doors because they do know that there's a baseline of knowledge that you don't even have to talk about.
Yeah.
Everyone at Berklee, whether you're an engineer, a drummer, a vocalist, it doesn't matter. 4 semesters of ear training. Everyone that is at Berklee, everyone that graduated, you know that technically they can sing Lydian flat 7. They should be able to sing that.
Yes.
Every one of them has to have a baseline of knowledge. I went to see Richie Kotzen, and his drummer turned out to be a Berklee guy. And within seconds, it felt like we were like one soul. I can't really describe it because we just knew. We knew the same people, we knew the same buildings, we knew the same. There was a bond, and with the drummer. Come on, I mean, you know.
Usually bonds with drummers only last about an hour.
But that's what it gives you, and of course gave me a lot of education as well. But I think that's what you get, and it's just not right to ask those kinds of sums of money. It is a business.
Yeah.
What really pisses me off, they take $20,000 a semester from thousands of students every semester, and then I get emails, alumni emails, asking for donations. And one time I wrote back and say, "Fuck off! Are you freaking insane? You're taking $20 from these kids, and you ask me, a guy that has to, well, not anymore, but the guy that has to scrape by with $1,000 a month as a musician teaching C major." That's no.
Yeah. Okay, let's end on a less annoyed question. So someone before whose name was asks, you record something in reel-to-reel machine, which I think is a loose English translation of, are we recording with reel-to-reel tape machines? I, for one, am not, and haven't done in over a decade. When was the last time you recorded with tape, Henning?
Tascam Porter Studio that my parents got me from Hong Kong, 4-track little tape. Wow. When I just started out in 91 probably. Right.
I had the Fostex equivalent in 97, 98. Yeah, although in my university years, I did use an Atari tape machine and a Revox tape machine. They're awful.
I was already way into, I started doing digital audio when Cubase first was able to record audio.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And back in the day, it was level and pan. That's all you had.
Yep. Oh, you didn't get the luxury of syncing up ADAT machines?
Nope.
Oh, nope. You missed the trick there. It was awful.
I jumped right into digital audio and then grew with it.
Right. Yeah, I was kind of on the weird cusp because I was doing hard drive recording before anyone taught me how to, which is weird. But all the teachers had these ADAT machines so I learned all the like time code sync and how to fly ADATs and stuff before I learned how
what
to.
A nightmare.
Yeah, it was disgusting. It was awful. At one point, there was a song we were mixing where I had to fly in a 5th ADAT machine, and that was the worst. That took an hour just to get it to work.
I can't imagine people starting out nowadays, because I grew up with MIDI. I had an Atari ST and did MIDI in Cubase, which back then was called 24.
I remember it. On the Atari ST, was it? Or was it on PC at that point?
Atari ST.
Yeah.
And then Cubase. And then Cubase had audio, which was big. Trying to record that with like your sound card on your PC. What a night. 2 megabytes of RAM. I had 2 megs of RAM, guy.
Wow.
And so I grew with it. And then all of a sudden you could have a plugin. And then at some point there was something called a VST instrument. So it got bit by bit, it got more and more and more complex.
Right.
So I only always focused on the new bit I had to learn.
Right.
How do people get some audio interface nowadays in Cubase, Logic, Reaper, whatever you want to call it, and even know where to start? It's
terrifying, isn't it?
I would have no idea. And I taught Cubase. I've done workshops and all this. But I was like, how do you even start? You call up the console. I know from Analog Console, I know from growing up with Cubase, and again, bit by bit, that I learned that they added on over the years. You open the Cubase console, how in the world do you even know what to do if you've never actually seen a real one? You want to do some home recording, how is that even possible?
Yeah, it's information overload, isn't it? Like, you do not know where to start, and the standard is so high because because everyone can do it, therefore the cream rises to the top. And in the internet age, even if 1 million people have interfaces and 1,000 people already have these amazing mixes at home, you see that on the internet. That's 1,000 mixes to go through, but that's actually 0.1% of everybody. So the expectation is that you're in the 0.1%, when the truth is you're probably not, and you've got all this being thrown at you. Yeah, I learned.
That's like, what that's like?
Go on.
That's like the cover girls for the 14-year-olds.
Yeah.
They think they all have to look like the models, when in reality the models don't look like the models.
No.
0001 has a good point. You start with GarageBand in macOS. That's actually not a bad idea.
Yeah.
Starting in a much reduced software. What I wish Cubase had, you can of course get like the Cubase Easy or Elements or whatever, but I wish when you got Cubase, there were 3 different modes that you could select.
Simple, not so simple, and professional.
Simple mode, no instrument tracks. The console doesn't have routing. The console doesn't have the mixer. The console doesn't have plugins, stuff like this. Maybe no plugins and only like a basic channel strip. Very basic.
Yes.
With not even compression. Just a very basic graphic EQ. Like the most basic things.
Funnily enough, shameless plug, tomorrow my new courses on EQ, compression, and reverb all come out through Pro Mix Academy. Funnily enough. Shameless plug. And also my mods are dropping in the chat that I have a basics course on Reaper, which is exactly this from the beginning. So yes, I completely agree. But yeah, it's terrifying how fast you can learn now if someone teaches you the right way. That's the other thing, is I had nobody teaching me. The internet wasn't really fast enough for video in 98, 99 when I started. So I got a cracked copy of Sonar 4 from Cakewalk and just poked it until it did things.
I know my shit. I have a summa cum laude from Berkeley in sound design. I ran several studios. I got the Antelope interface yesterday.
Right, yeah. And
I'm not getting sound out of it. This is where we are. So imagine you're someone, my friend Sophia.
Right.
We now just moved from Vegas back home. Met her at NAMM. And she's a super fan of the channel, and she wanted to record.
Okay, yeah.
So she asked and so she got a Mac, and she got an Apollo Twin.
Okay.
Basic setup, but she has no idea what to do.
Okay.
Mac, Apollo Twin, and Logic. And I spent hours with her just trying to make her understand how to make a track, how to route that track somewhere, how to get what she's playing onto that track. And she was frustrated many, many times just to get a very basic recording happening. I really think that like a basic mode for Logic, Cubase, and then like a medium mode. I have VCA channels on my mixer, which is great. But explain to me why a VCA channel makes more sense than a group channel or whatever. I get all that.
Yeah.
But I get it. So if as a beginner, all of a sudden you have here all these types of channels, and there's 20 different types of channels, from rewire to audio to MIDI to VCA to, I would understand that people don't start recording themselves with all that craziness.
I do remember when I had the old 4-track cassette recorder, you had a slider for 1, 2, 3, or 4. And you pressed play and you heard them, and you pressed record and the sound went in. So, yeah.
Now, would it be a good idea? And I know people wouldn't do it. Well, Marty's saying there's a new Porter Studio with an SD card. Would it be a good idea to buy one of those Zoom standalone recorders?
Yeah.
They have a Zoom live track or whatever with faders. You record onto it. and maybe learn it. Forget the software. Learn how to record yourself, get levels with a thing that you can put your hands on.
Yeah, I suppose that's definitely a possibility. But then when you get so far, you get to step 2 and you hit the brick wall of people turning around and going, well, it doesn't sound good. What do I do? And then
I would say, in the beginning, whether you use software or hardware, it doesn't sound good.
Yeah, it's going to suck because you don't know what you're doing, and that's okay.
But with the software, one could say it doesn't sound good because there's 98% of the software that I'm not tapping into or don't understand. And then you think it doesn't sound good because you don't understand the software, where in reality, you don't know how to get a good level and all this. So I think with a reduced 8-track recorder Zoom, you see where the knob is. It's panned here. So if it doesn't sound good there, then it's actually your fault.
Yeah. It's a good way of thinking about it. And that's probably a good thought to end the podcast on. So, Henning, thank you very much for taking the time at very short notice, because I am terrible at getting guests on the podcast. I send messages out about 2 hours before and be like, hey, you free? And people are like...
And he probably sent messages to 17 other people who turned him down, and then I was number 18, which is fine, which is totally okay.
That was last week. This week, you were my number 1.
Ooh.
Hey. But yes, thank you again. This has been a lot of fun. So you're now my regular co-host, and I'll see you next week. No.
I've got shit to do, man.
Don't we all? Including this podcast. So, yes, thank you everybody for watching. Thank you for the patrons. This is going to be up on iTunes and Spotify by tomorrow. Tell your friends, share, like, subscribe, all that jazz. If you've not seen Henning's channel before, where the hell have you been? Go and subscribe to HP42.
Hold up your hand. Who hasn't? Because what is wrong with you? That's a funny channel, and the sweaters are funny, and the guitar playing is mediocre, and there's dogs and cats and Vanessas.
Although no longer, I believe. She's finished her internship.
That is true. She's coming back on Saturday because...
she's starting again.
The level of bad puns has gone up, and we don't want that, so she's coming back. If someone said he can't eat a podcast, yes, Ace Man, that's true. I can't eat a podcast.
Yes, so make sure you pay Henning's bills because he can't eat most things. That's how you stay in shape. You just walk around and go, I can't eat this. I can't eat that.
I'm saying that so people understand. Look, we need to make my people say, well, why are you asking companies to pay you? Because you clearly have all these guitars, so you have money. Well, no, I have these guitars.
Yeah.
I can't eat them.
Yes, and that's a very good line for me to go and look at cooking my guitar.
When Adam gets the mic from Shure, which I assume he didn't pay money for.
That's right.
That's nice from Shure, and that's nice for Adam that he has a mic, but his daughter doesn't give a shit about that mic.
That's very true. She will try and eat it. I can tell you that much. But she won't succeed.
In order for her to eat, it would be very nice if Shure didn't just send the mic, but also gave him some money for food in addition to the mic, because he's actually now showing it to you guys for 2 freaking hours.
Pay me, Shure, pay me, Shure, pay me, Shure. There's always a next time. Now I know who the guys at Shure are, so there's always a next time. But yes, that is good advice, and I will now storm the industry and go, pay me, I can't eat microphones.
Well, we do a lot of freebies to get the foot in the door. We do
absolutely, yeah. And yeah, no shame in it. It's what we do. It's what we do for a living. We tell you whether this is good or not, and you can hear for yourself whether this is good or not. I actually can't hear this because I've not got it routed through my headphones because it would send me insane.
Sounds good. You could also buy an LG screen, and then it sounds like I sound.
Yeah, so that's the thing. I'm just going to buy an LG screen next time.
And on stage, you're just holding the LG screen. You're singing into the top of it.
Yeah, well, the people get a show as well because they'll get the feed from the webcam. But hey,
win-win.
Thinking ahead.
You guys go to bed. I'm going to go to bed. And Leslie is now clearly to bed. So there goes our couch time. But hey, I spent it with you. That's fine.
Oh, yes. We love couch time together. But thanks again, Henning, and I'll see everybody next week, 8 p.m. UK time. Goodbye, everybody. Hey, everyone. That might be the end of the video, but if you fancy carrying on this conversation, we have a Discord server. Link is in the description. We're also on Patreon, which is something you can really help us with. We also are on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Hot Pole Studios. See you there.